Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And for this Feminist movie Friday, I don't know why I had to be real slow about that, but apparently I needed to be. I am in the mood for a horror movie. But we're making it AAPI because, you know, it's still AAPI History Month. And going with the classic Korean horror, A Tale of Two Sisters, written and directed by Kim Ji-woo. We're tapping into an old folklore, which was mentioned, and we talked about a little bit with the ladies of What's Her Name podcast, titled Janghwa Hongriyeon Jeon, which translates to the story of Janghwa and Hongriyeon, which is a fairly tragic fairy tale, and it includes the evil stepmother and reincarnation, which I was thinking about why that story seems so sad to me when everybody seems to kind of be okay with the ending. It's just the whole ideal of reincarnation is not something I grew up with. But I guess if you grew up with that, that gives you a little bit of like hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still makes me very sad and feel like there's no justice in the world.
It was sad. I personally thought it was very sad.
Before we start, I guess content warning for so many traumatic and tragic things here. Death by suicide is going to be mentioned, affairs, and just mental health diagnosis all throughout. So know that. Also, it is a Korean horror movie, so it's extra tragic for some reason in my head. They have to make it a little more damaging, it seems.
Well.
And if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it, we're going to be spoiling the hell out of it, even though it is like a 22-year-old film. Pause. You can actually go find it on Shudder, which is not a sponsor at this point. They should be, though. You really should be Shudder if you want sponsorships. We're the ones. As well as AMC Plus. That's kind of how they all have all of that. Again, not a sponsor, but I did get a 7-day free trial, so.
Me too.
There you go. That's how we watched it, because there's nothing else. There's it's not even available to rent anywhere else. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Just said FYI. So pause here, go do that 7-day trial, and go come back and listen to the rest of this episode. All right. So with all that, yes, this movie was released in 2003, and there is an American remake titled The Uninvited, which is a movie I have repeatedly watched and repeatedly forgotten about. Because every time I will see it as like a preview, I'm like, oh, I'll watch it because I'm trying to watch. You know, we love a good horror film here. By the time I get to the end, I'm like, oh, wait, I've seen this. I think this happened like 3 or 4 times now, Annie. Even to the point that I was trying to compare these two movies, and I still could not remember what happened in The Uninvited, y'all. And I think I've seen it a few times by accident.
We confused ourselves a bit with that one because I've also seen it. But I was telling you about it, and you were like, no.
Not the same one.
But then I couldn't remember really what happens in it, so it didn't matter.
You and I went back and forth, and we're like, wait, did this happen? Maybe this happened. I don't remember if this happened.
Yeah.
We're doing great.
That's nothing to say about the quality of the film,
Correct.
Actually. I have no idea, but... I can't remember.
Again, cannot remember for the life of us. But for the Korean world, this was a pretty big film. A lot of awards were given, even to Best New Actress, Im Soo-jung, who plays Sumi. So, yes, this got a lot of love in South Korea, as well as in other places. Like, for a foreign film, it's pretty popular in its take, so... And it was during the era of like Asian horror films being remade in the U.S., like Grudge and all of that was coming at the same time. And, you know, that's really haunting. And I still can't shake those memories either. I had to watch this during the day just in case because I'm alone here.
No, you were taking, I understand. Yeah, you knew the precautions you needed, you took.
There's too many things that jump around, and then Korean, Asian horror films, I feel like are a whole different level. So I'm like, I'm not going to be alone by myself in this house that you would be petrified by. So
yeah,
if you tell me that.
I try not to watch horror movies when I'm alone at your house.
I think that's fair enough. Anyway, so yes, there you go. Obviously, there are some differences, but again, we're going to concentrate on the Korean version because I can't quite remember the American. Anyway, it's okay. So let's begin with the plot. We have sisters Soo-mi and Soo-yeon who have been gone for some time. Soo-mi, the oldest daughter, has been in a psychiatric hospital and finally gets to come home with Soo-yeon. Upon their arrival, after going to explore around the grounds and kind of establishing the fact that they're very close sisters, they are greeted by their stepmother, Yeon-ju, who seems overly eager about them being there, like very fake. The girls seemed united and holding hands and not speaking. It's obvious that this is very tense. The father, who seems kind of useless, just an FYI, is exhausted from the very beginning with everyone there. It doesn't matter. He's just exhausted. Things are tense in the home as Soo-mi is adjusting, but also trying to protect her younger sister. The whole time, Yeon-ju seems to be upset as well, taking different medications and trying to get close to her husband, the father. There's birds involved, which seems like pets for Yeon-ju. Nightmares of ghostly figures ensue all of them, except for the father. As things start to escalate, we find that Yeon-ju is taking out her frustrations, or it seems, according to Soo-mi, Soo-yeon, and Soo-mi tries to get her father to do something about it, and he's very resistant. He keeps trying to get her to talk, and she's like, you're not doing anything, so it gets up back and forth. One night, when their uncle and his wife come to visit, awkward conversations happen between Yeon-ju and the uncle. It is uncomfortable. And it's at this time that Mi-hee, who is the wife, suffers a severe seizure. Like, it was real grotesque. I didn't know what was happening. If she was allergic to something, if she was being possessed. There was a lot going on. After they leave, Mi-hee tells him that she saw a ghost of a little girl under the sink. At the same time, Yeon-ju, where we see she is also confronted by the ghost, like is looking around the kitchen, puts her hands down, and she gets grabbed. Classic Asian takes all the time. Later, we find the birds all to be dead. It's a whole scene. Also, pictures that Soo-mi found of all of them, including Yeon-ju, are destroyed with Yeon-ju's face marked up. It's at this point Yeon-ju punishes Soo-yeon by forcing her into a wardrobe, which has some dark history that is not supposed to be talked about. Even to the point Soo-mi tries to get her dad to move it. As all this unfolds, we see both Yeon-ju and Soo-mi falling apart. A fight breaks out between Yeon-ju and Soo-mi as Soo-mi discovers Yeon-ju's abuse and Yeon-ju dragging a bloody bag across the house. Soo-mi believes it is Soo-yeon in the bag and both fight. It's then that her father returns, as he had been gone to pick someone up because he has a phone call, very mysterious phone call. He carries Soo-mi, who he discovers on the floor, and also attends to Yeon-ju, urging her to take her meds, her pills. And as everything comes to a head, it is soon discovered that Soo-yeon was already dead and was never there. In fact, since Soo-mi's return, she and her father were the only ones in the home. Yeon-ju was never there. And Soo-mi had been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder and was making all these other people in her head, creating them in their head. And Yeon-ju was a bit different than what Soo-mi had portrayed her to be. After the incident, Soo-mi returns to the mental health facility, and Yeon-ju promises to visit often. Weird, a tense moment where Soo-mi grabs Yeon-ju and they have a struggle. Yeon-ju and her father, Soo-mi's father, return to the home. We do have a flashback to see the tragic moments of Soo-yeon and her mother's death. While their mother was sick, the father had brought Yeon-ju, the mistress, back to the house. Distraught, the mother died by suicide within the wardrobe in Soo-yeon's room. When Soo-yeon discovers her, the shock causes the body in the wardrobe to fall on Soo-yeon. And though Yeon-ju discovers it, she leaves without helping. And because of an argument between Yeon-ju and Soo-mi, Soo-mi never goes to check in on Soo-yeon. Like, they heard the noise, but no one goes to check except for Yeon-ju. And that's how we learn of all that death, which is pretty horrifically played out. And in the end, the ghost of Soo-yeon does return because she has actually been there and takes revenge against Yeon-ju. End scene.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. I mean, because Soo-yeon basically suffocates under the wardrobe, is alive.
Asking for help.
And that's her final words, are asking her sister for help.
Yeah.
And the mistress says to Sumi, you're going to regret this. One day you're going to regret this during their argument. And it's because she knows her sister's dying.
Like, that's such a weird way to be like, that means you neglected her and you essentially killed her.
Yeah.
Because everybody was in that house.
I feel like my take was she actually was going to find somebody to be like, there's something wrong. And then she got in this argument and then she was like, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah. She was going back and forth. You could see her in her eyes like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do here?
Right.
And then she got confronted by Sumi. Odd way to respond in any way. Like, she's a nurse.
Yes.
So like
it was a very dark, grim.
Yeah. So you don't feel bad about her death. So it's like it seems like Sumi wasn't that off about who she was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that. Like she may not have actually abused, but she abused.
Yeah.
Soo-yeon in a specific whatever was happening. So yeah, there are themes, I guess. We'll try to play them out in our heads and on the mic. Family, however distorted it is, like the mother was there trying to comfort Soo-yeon at times. Obviously, the sisters dearly loved each other and their mother. For Sumi, it became a whole conversation about protecting her. So like her trauma is partially that she blames herself for not protecting her from whatever evil that she saw her stepmother at that time, her dad's mistress, being. And she did to the point that she's even like shaking her and like telling her, you have to talk to me. I told you must talk to me. And Soo-yeon never implies that it actually was any abuse.
Yeah. And that's kind of the interesting thing, is that it's very evil stepmother.
Yes.
Kind of situation, like kind of the fairy tale you were talking about. I can see Sumi both almost making it simpler in heavy quotes of like, she is this evil stepmother. Yeah. That is who she is.
Yeah.
But the truth being, she was still bad.
Right.
She just wasn't that.
Right.
But we don't know. We don't know for sure.
We don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting, again, like her never even talking to her father exactly, except for she does try to advocate, saying she's doing all these things. And the father was like, I need you to stop. You have to stop this, without ever any implication about what it is. And he never really seems to be helping her other than just medicating her.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with your previous statement that he's pretty useless throughout. Because, you know, the first time you watch it, I assume you've got kind of a Sixth Sense vibe. Like, you get to the end and the whole time he's like, you're messed up and we need to get you on this medication. But it still feels like he could have done a little bit.
Right. I mean,
a little bit more.
He brought in his mistress while his wife was still alive and terminally ill. Like, there's so many things to be like, you were the catalyst of this, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, like the thing with the wardrobe, which was hinted throughout as being like this traumatic thing. We don't talk about it. It was very much he never wanted to confront what happened.
Right.
He didn't want to deal with it. And it was a really painful thing to deal with. But if if something like this has happened, you've got a kid, you're going to have to deal with it.
Right.
Or else, she was in a mental institution.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think a little closer hand. I did find it also interesting that, again, the stepmother tries to play happy mom at the beginning. Of course, again, this is something in her head because she was never there.
Yeah.
So in her mind, that this is what she was trying to do, which is interesting build up. Also, the birds. Why were the birds there? If they weren't actually Yeonju's pets, why were they there? Or were they there? Maybe they weren't.
See, this is the question. Because after I watched this happens to me a lot with horror movies. I'm like, I want to make sure I got the point of this. So I go and look it up online.
Right, me too.
Even without like this being work. So I looked it up online, and people seem to think that the birds are real.
Okay.
And she killed them.
Well, it does show that. Them. Yeah, it does show that where she does that. So why were they there?
I think a lot. I think it's meant to mess with your head. Maybe the dad bought them as some sort of, this is my, I don't know.
Here's a replacement for your sister?
Oh, gosh. Terrible. No, I was saying like maybe it's for his mistress. But I'm not sure. Yeah,
that was one of my thoughts.
It does get to the end, and it has a bunch of flashbacks, as you said, and it's like, oh no, it was actually Sumi doing this. It was Sumi doing this. And the birds were one, which you did have a funny in the breakdown of it. You had a funny line that made me laugh, where you didn't explain the birds at all. You just were like, there are birds.
Because I just didn't understand why, to be honest. Other than the cause of like how Soo-yeon gets abused, supposedly in her mind. But I'm like, but why?
Yeah. But just so you know, listeners.
They're birds.
They're birds that die. As part of the horror narrative.
Right, I guess it's better than a dog, but it still makes me sad.
Yeah.
Okay, so another theme obviously is grief and how that kind of pours out, because we also see after the flashbacks when we see how Sumi is processing and it's not well. She goes into a dissociative identity disorder and plays a part of everyone, including Soo-yeon and Yeonju, to the fact that like she tries to, I don't know if this actually happens, where she tries to get in bed with her father. And so her father leaves because he's like, what?
Yeah.
But we don't know that because it looks like it's Yeonju, which, thank you, director, for not trying to actually make it seem as if they were laying in bed together. Like, we don't ever get a flashback of her being her. I appreciate that. But like all of those things, like she's thoroughly playing those parts in her like trauma, and that's kind of how those grief comes out. And you see Yeonju, the stepmother, guilt, like when she sits and like it's kind of holding her face, and I feel like some of that is her memories, the flashback as well, and the back and forth. And so it's interesting to see her like, something is wrong, and she did something wrong because she also finally hears the ghost at the end, and that's part of her like guilt, it seems.
Yeah, and it's very apparent from the beginning, for a lot of reasons, that Sumi is not in a good place. But you don't know why. But you have like this overhanging the whole time. You're like, well, how did she end up in this place? Why is there this tension everywhere? What is it? And as you slowly learn more and more about this family dynamic, and then ultimately what happened that caused this trauma, like the fallout, it makes more sense thinking about it in retrospect of like how Sumi was behaving and how she was visualizing things and how she was projecting these certain emotions or ideas on other people. And so it was really interesting. It was an interesting look at that kind of trauma and grief and how we process it or struggle to process it or don't process it. But just her, because in the beginning, like her and her sister are holding hands.
Yeah.
Her sister's not even that, but they're so close and they don't say anything. Like, it's just, you don't know what it is, but okay, it feels like they're bound together by trauma.
Right. Right. I mean, it kind of makes you imply like whatever happened to the mom may have been the big trauma. Because it kind of goes back and forth on that. And like, how do you grieve that? Because she doesn't even really grieve her. She's grieving her mom with Soo-yeon, who is not alive as well, but she's actually traumatized by Soo-yeon's death more than her mom's death, which was bad enough. they don't even get to have that moment to grieve one person. They grieve everyone, even the like expected death, and I put that in quotes, in like her mother being terminally ill already, and then watching her deteriorate. Like, I had originally thought maybe Yeonju came in as a nurse, which may have been the pretense of how she came into the house, but everybody knew they were having an affair type of conversation.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see, because also it implies that he's a doctor and she's a nurse, in what type of, what are their, like, what is their specialty? So what is happening here? For a minute, I thought maybe Yeonju was pushing, like Soo-yeon was, I knew Soo-yeon wasn't there. Yeonju not being there actually was a surprise to me. I was like, oh.
Yeah, me too.
That's interesting. That's the twist I was not expecting. That I was like, okay. And that Yeonju was actually pushing her psychosis more by, like, because I was like, oh, but she's talking to Soo-yeon, like she's there, so she must be playing into this.
Right. Right, because normally when they pull a twist like that, it's one person. It's one thing. It be two.
Yeah, that was a new twist. Also, like I was like, maybe she's also going through psychosis as well, was within my head because of guilt.
Yeah.
That's what I had imagined.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the death of their mom and how it happened, because she was sick, but
still.
Yeah. Oh, but still, yeah.
How would she do it in her closet too? I was like, that's mean. Why wouldn't you do that to the father? Again, how does he escape not being the one to see that?
Maybe there's another version of the movie where it's.
I mean, it could also be like, a lot of Asian movies were very like misogynistic in itself, and really feel like they can blame the mistress instead of the husband. You know what I mean? Like that level of like.
Well, I also feel like a lot of horror is very much, whose pain we want to see, women's.
Right.
So like men, they have like their masculine manly pain, but for the like actual
right.
Oh, this horrible thing happened to me.
Let's base it on them.
Yeah.
Also their deaths. Let's make it about their deaths and then their faults and then their traumas. Yes. Not and us trying to hold them together, because there's nothing wrong with us as men. Yes, obviously this also is talking about the mental health of all of them, specifically Sumi, but like all of the process and what it looks like when it is dissociative identity disorder. Of course, this is not true to life in all of this. But like, it is interesting how they portrayed that, because you don't quite know how it's portrayed. You just see her views, and it also brings you a little bit of confusion, because I'm like, who is in that bag? We know Soo-yeon. Is it an animal? I imagined a deer or a bear in the bag. I thought we were going to see inside of it, and then it ended up being a porcelain doll with no blood.
Yeah.
I
think it was just a bunch of dolls.
Yeah, and I did notice her hands cut, like where she had stabbed the Yeonju, but it was actually her own hand.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that note was interesting, and the panning of you revealing that it's Sumi and not Yeonju, but also like the coping mechanisms again, that dissociative identity disorder coming through, and how she is coping at the very end when she's back in the mental health hospital. She still hears Soo-yeon and the whistling, which I thought was also interesting, but it turns out she's also a ghost. So.
Yeah.
Which is it?
Mm-hmm.
But it was a catalyst, I guess, in making sure that this plot kept going through. But again, now I'm confused about, was it really a ghost, or wasn't it? Was she really there, or wasn't she?
I think the ghost was there.
No, yeah, okay. So
in the context of the film, I think that ghost was there at the end.
So we're also saying in this that the brother and his wife Mihi were not there. That never happened, right? Or did it?
I thought it did.
Oh, did you think it really did?
No, I don't know. But now that I've been thinking about it more, I'm not sure. But the first time when I watched it, I was like, oh, yeah, that happened.
Why do they hate each other is the other part to me. Is like, why does he hate her, though? They seem very chummy. Did he figure out? But it would have been Sumi. So why would he hate Sumi? She didn't do anything wrong, technically.
Yeah. I honestly love this kind of debate with horror movies. So my
assumption was they were never there.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
Okay.
But the first time I watched it, I was all in. I was like, oh yeah, they're there. I thought she was having moments of lucidity and moments of not.
Okay.
But now I think you're correct.
Right. And the whole thing is like she had them on her side of despising and making all the audience think something in Yeonju is the villain here.
Yes.
And they're not far off. Speaking of, so who is the villain in this scenario? I mean, Yeonju is not great. She absolutely let the little, like, she could have saved the Soo-yeon, and she refused to because she wanted to make someone else miserable.
Yeah, and I think like the best version I could give her, the best read I could give of this, what happened, is that she had a moment where she didn't know what to do, which she clearly did. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't about killing them. It was just like a panicked moment. And then she went in the hallway and then acted terribly and let them die. Yeah. So it's not like even the best read I can think of is not good at all.
All right. Like I feel like she was sitting there watching her, like Soo-yeon scratching, desperately trying to get out, and just watched her. At first she was horrified. And then she was like, what do I do here?
Yeah.
That's how I read that. Yeah. Oh, so I also would say, again, the father, useless father. Maybe the whole villain, because none of this would have happened had he had some decency and been faithful.
I was surprised at how much I was like, wow, this guy, he's not doing anything.
And nothing.
Not a thing.
Useless. Getting mad because she's not okay.
I wonder how much of that is a kind of restriction of the narrative.
Yeah, maybe.
Because like, if we as the audience, I don't know, or they just didn't give him any time. But I wonder if they were really worried we would figure it out.
Maybe.
And so they were like, let's just make him...
Let's just get this done. Well, also, I know in the fairy tale, because it also infuriated me, was that the noble man does nothing until all these other people die. And then finally one shaman comes in like, hey, your wife right now, she's the worst. You might want to get rid of her or you're going to be cursed. And he didn't do anything until he figured out he was going to be cursed. Oh. So I wonder if it's supposed to be like a play on that too. Lesson learned.
Too late.
Men are useless. Yeah. Not for us, whatever. Of course, there comes at the very end, revenge. So we see as Soo-yeon has the final moments. And like kind of, it seems Soo-yeon communicates to Sumi when she does the whistle to be like, I got this. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and Sumi is like lying in a hospital bed and smiles and like tears come out her eyes. Right. And then you see Soo-yeon
climbing out the closet. They love making ghostly girls coming out of like areas climbing.
It's scary. I get it. Scary. To be honest.
Or climbing under the bed. Was that The Grudge?
The Grudge is when she like opens the covers and there's the
nightmare, y'all. They pushed me on that one. I still have nightmares about that because I was like, what's in my bed? This is my safe space. How dare you?
It was very clever because a lot of us think the bed, you hide under the covers and that's your safe space. And they were like, what if it's in there?
Which they kind of had that with Soo-yeon having nightmares, but it was actually me having nightmares for Soo-yeon.
Yes.
Anyway, y'all, if you like horror movies, you should go take the time to watch this one and then come tell us what we need to know
Tell us your interpretation.
Yes. Yes.
Because, I mean, obviously it's based off this fairy tale, but Samantha and I, we were discussing it before, and we were like, "Well, what was
Maybe this?"
Which I like. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. We love a good unfinished, not unfinished, but like
I like if it's sort of I have to kind of think about it, and
it leaves people to have different interpretation.
Yes. I honestly like all types of horror movies, but I do like the type that leave it up for interpretation and discussion.
What just happened? Is this good or is this bad? Or what just happened? Was that real or wasn't it?
Exactly. Listeners, you've got to let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffwhatevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Momsa Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.